Alright folks, so in today's video I'm going to talk about the fall of the United States. And it's going to be a complete replica of the fall of the Roman Empire. Okay, why am I making this comparison? Basically, the US political system, it's an exact replica of the Roman Empire. So for example, where do the US politicians meet in Washington DC? It's called the Capitol Hill, right? That's what it was called during the Holy Roman Empire. The politicians they met on the Capitol Hill. And what do you call those corrupt politicians that sits on Capitol Hill? They form the Senate, right? You wanna know something that's also very interesting? You ever watch the State of the Union address every January? So you have the president that's giving a speech in the front, and right behind the president you have the vice president, then the House Speaker, which is the person that's second in line to presidency. But if you zoom out of the photo, you will see you see those columns on the side. It's the exact replica of the ones that was built during the Roman Empire. Also, a couple symbols I want to point out. You'll see one on the left and one on the right. There's a picture there. It's very interesting. You see the thing, it looks like an axe, right? Do you know what those axes are called? They're called fasces. Okay, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right exactly. It is originated in Latin, and it's still a very popular word in modern day Italian. Okay, you can search up the word fasces. Okay, and if that sounds familiar, do you know what it stands for? Mussolini made this word very popular in Italy. Yes, you guessed it right. It's called fascism. The axe there, that means execution. Very interesting. I'm not saying that the United States it's operated on the basis of fascism, but that's what those things are called. You can see it's a 100% copy and paste from the Roman Empire. Okay, I'm not going to claim that I'm an expert on ancient Roman history, but eventually, despite the fact that how powerful the Roman Empire was, it was one of the most powerful throughout the human history. It fell apart. Do you know what led to the destruction of Roman Empire? Well, there were many reasons, right? We can't just focus on all on one point. But let's go through some of the key statistics. For example, the Roman Empire just simply expanded way too much. It became too vast for the Roman politicians to govern. And the same thing happened to the Mongol Empire. Despite the fact that how powerful the Mongol Empire was, it rose extremely quickly. Then it just completely fell apart within a couple of generations because the land was simply too vast for it to govern. The same thing happened to the Qing dynasty China, right? China expanded to massive territories into the Middle East through the Silk Road. They conquered parts of Russia. Korea became a puppet state. They completely conquered Taiwan, and they even conquered Outer Mongolia. But eventually, the empire just became too vast for China to be able to sustain itself. Well, look at what's happening in the United States. The USA wants to be involved in every single conflict worldwide. Do you guys see what happened at the United Nations meeting? Who is the country that vetoed the vote for a ceasefire in Gaza? I think it was the United States of America. And you guys want to, put all the blame and call Putin a war criminal. You guys want to paint Russia as the villains for the Russian UN ambassador to veto their attack on Ukraine. Don't you see what's happening? Who is the real warmonger? Who invaded Afghanistan in 2001? Who invaded Iraq in 2003? So as of today, the United States has 845 military bases worldwide. 845. It's outrageous. So the annual budget for the United States military is close to 1 trillion US dollars. Guess how many military bases China has worldwide? One military base in Djibouti. If you want to rescue the US economy, by the way, right now it's over $32 trillion in debt. That's 100,000 US dollars per American citizen. If you want to salvage whatever is left, it's time to shut down every single military bases around the world and bring the troops home. And Joe Biden is not going to be able to do that. I can tell you that 100%. It's almost like somebody performed lobotomy on him. By the way, do you guys know about the history of lobotomy? That is pure evil. That was all done by the United States. But apart from the United States just overstretching itself with its military forces, one of the key factors that led to the fall of the Roman Empire was they ignored the traditional gender roles. Families started breaking apart. They had massive orgies every single day. And also, one thing that was extremely popular in the later days of the Roman Empire during their 1600-year rule was transgenderism. By the way, this is not new, right? And like I mentioned, this has happened throughout history. It also happened during the Ottoman Empire. The same thing happened also to the Greek Empire. Okay, even the same thing happened in China, as I mentioned in my entire history of the Chinese eunuchs video. So during China's final dynasty, during the Qing dynasty, and there were so many eunuchs working in the imperial harem, and obviously it was not possible for the Chinese emperor to have sex with tens and thousands of women. So most of them, they never got any action. So what ended up happening is that these eunuchs will come in and they would just play around with the emperor's concubines all day long because they were completely ignored. That's what's happening. You got a bunch of dudes without balls using sticks and stones, whatever the hell they were doing, handcuffs, and they were just playing around with the emperor's wife. Listen, I've said this many times before in previous videos. LGBTQ+, you can keep adding all the letters, the 2S, non-binary, gender fluid, gender non-conforming, I'm queer, all of that stuff. This is the direct result of third-wave feminism and the breakdown of nuclear families. Any society that has survived throughout history for an extended period of time, they survived on the basis of a strong family that is nuclear. It has to be nuclear. So you see the Chinese character for family? That's called 家, one syllable, one character. You see the Chinese character is like art. See the top? That's the rooftop. Everybody in the family survives under one rooftop. That's where the family members branches out from the bottom. Look at what's happening. Look at the hookup culture. Who is to blame for hookup culture? I'm sorry, ladies. That is all on you. You have control to all the sex, right? You have all the access. And you just letting these men in and letting them do it raw. No commitment whatsoever. How is this empowering women in any way, shape, or form possible? Do you know the old saying? A key that can open any lock. That it's a master key, okay? But, however, a lock that can be opened by any key, that is a piece of shit lock. Ladies, it is not empowering, okay? It's not good for you. This is not something you should be proud of. And this hookup culture is the direct result of the 50% divorce rate of what we're seeing in the West today. In fact, you know what's happened in Asia, for example, in China, in South Korea, in Japan, they have copied this movement. Right now, it's probably not as bad, but it's becoming increasingly more common. Right? You see this one-night stand, people entering situationships, where people can just be friends with benefits, no strings attached. This is terrible for our society. And look at the China's divorce rate today. Back in 1980, China's divorce rate was 2%, right? For people say that maybe back in the day it was illegal. China's divorce laws, it was always legal. Ever since the People's Republic of China was founded back in 1949, divorce was always legal, but it almost never happened. Do you know why? Because back in the day, people were virgins on their wedding day. That's why in my grandma's generation, nobody ever got divorced. And then look at what happened. After the death of Mao Zedong, China stopped being communist, and it opened up to the West. And sometimes, you don't take the good things from the West. You take all the negatives. And this casual situationship and hookup culture has completely destroyed China's history, its culture, and society as a whole. This is why we see in the West, soon it's going to happen to China. People are going to come out as, LGBTQ. People are going to say, I'm non-binary, I'm gender fluid, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm transgender. If you have the opportunity to leave the West right now, I don't just mean the USA. I don't just mean Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK, France. If you were given the chance to leave any NATO country, I think it's time for you to book a flight and pack up your bags and get your passport. So do you guys know what is the top 1% of income earners worldwide? I'm not talking about just the West. I'm talking about worldwide. It's just over 30,000 US dollars a year. Well, you might think, wow, that sounds insane. How much do people make in Laos? How much do people make in Philippines, Indonesia, in Thailand? Imagine what conditions those people are living in. And obviously, if you make, anywhere between 30 to 40K US dollars living in, let's say, Manhattan, you're going to be homeless. But imagine with that kind of money, let's say you found a place in a beachside resort in Costa Rica. Imagine the quality of life you could be living. Imagine, if you made 70, 80, $100,000 a year, you could live like a king. The thing is, when you move to some of these developing countries, obviously you're not going to be making euros, the US dollar, Australian dollar, or Canadian dollars. You will need to find something that's remote that allows you to make the euro, the US dollar. And while you're living overseas in a country that is 10 times cheaper to live in, that's the best advice I can give you, because the West will fall and it's headed for disaster.
Closely, I played it